Malachi Lawrence, 6'4", 250, and shoots.
This was what they needed to do. The Dallas Cowboys got exponentially better.
It's more fun getting football players when you got two number ones.
The Cowboys needed defense, and tonight they got it.
Greeny said it really well there. The Cowboys needed defense, and they did it. You see Malachi Lawrence, who got later in the round, and Caleb Downs, and make Swagoo get in touch with his inner peace. Swag, how would you grade the Cowboys draft so far?
Yes. Yes, guys. Listen.
His voice went yes.
I'm going to bring this together because it's not all about the draft.
Yeah.
I thought Dallas for years missed opportunities at the trade deadline and in free agency to set themselves up for a draft to be like this. When you go get Quentin Williams, when you sign Kobe Durant, when you bring in George Pickens on offense in a trade, it gives you a clearer view of what you need. Clearly, Dallas defensively needed help. They trade away or release, trade or release Trayvon Diggs.
Trayvon Diggs was cut.
They cut him, right? They cut Trayvon Diggs. You also had Demarion Overshown coming back from an injury who flashed like none other at the linebacker spot. But you created an opportunity to have a clear mind by what you did during football season, go and get Quentin and George Pickens. You gave yourself an opportunity now to be one or two players away from being a completely different football team, and they got two good ones. And I'm happy that they positioned themselves before we got to the draft, because nobody has been upset about how Dallas is drafted. They haven't supplemented that. I think they supplemented it this year.
You know, the draft is such a game of chess, and it's sometimes easy to make the first overall pick or the second overall pick or the third overall pick. The Cowboys had the 12th pick, and they really wanted either Delane or Downs. That's Christian Parker, who's the defensive coordinator. He's 34 years old, comes from the Eagles. He's a defensive backs coach. And they had to just hold the line.
Yeah.
They had, you see Delane go at 6, you got to pray and hope that we could just hold the line long enough where no one takes him at 7, 8, 9, 10. And then finally at 11, they're like, let's just not mess around anymore. Yeah. They move up. They give up 2 fifth-round picks. Christian Parker is a defensive mastermind, high-end guy. This player, Caleb Downs, is a avatar of him. It's a coach on the field. So now you have the highest IQ, smartest player in this draft on defense, and you have a new defensive coordinator. You put them together, and it fills every need. It's almost like it was met in the stars. It was a perfect fit, and they held the line so well. That's an A-plus pick.
I expect this defense to flirt with being a top 10 defense next year.
And that was the worst defense in the league a year ago.
I expect them to flirt with being a top 10 defense. If Christian Parker is who people say he is, they have added Jalen Thompson.
Yep.
They have added Kobe Durant. Mm-hmm. They have added Rashawn Gary and Caleb Downs and a healthy Overshown.
Yep.
You mean to tell me that can't be a top 10 defense?
Should be.
If Rashawn Gary becomes a little bit what he was in the past, and I think I want to, can he mentor Lawrence in the proper way?
Absolutely.
Can he? I think that's the huge. Caleb Downs is going to be great. Can Malachi Lawrence be the complement to Rashawn Gary?
Really, yes, really good staff. Greg Ellis is still around Dallas, teaching D linemen how to rush the passer. DeMarcus goes back. This guy will develop. Think about it. When is the last guy that Dallas drafted on defense up front that didn't pan out? Also, outside of Mozzie Smith. Odigizua got a $90 million contract.
Taco Charlton. You can pick guys.
But those guys weren't walking into the infrastructure that they're walking into.
That's not a crazy thought, right? This should be a top 3rd defense, top 10 defense.
I would be shocked if they wasn't at least middle of the pack.
Yeah. All right, that's great news for Cowboys fans. They also will make their next pick tonight in the 3rd round. How about elsewhere in the NFC East? The Cowboys and Eagles executed a rare interdivision trade that allowed Philly to move up and draft receiver Mekhi Lemon, 20th overall. Now, the way it went down, pretty crazy. Lemon was on the phone with the Steelers when the Eagles made the trade. Listen to this.
Come on, man. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, why Philly color? Yeah.
Oh, Philly just traded for you.
Hello?
This is Philly. They just traded for you. Philly's taking you right now.
I mean, I actually get chills just watching it because it's so crazy to think how this can be such a roller coaster ride for fans, for the players, for the teams. Adam, how did the Eagles get Lemon?
Well, first of all, the Pittsburgh Steelers had more picks than anybody in the draft. So they could have done what the Eagles did, but they chose to stand pat and get Mekhi Lemon on the phone. And the Eagles, always being ultra aggressive, jumped up to get him. Now, what's interesting about this is that this goes back to the Ty Simpson pick, because one of the players that the Rams talked about drafting was Mekhi Lemon. And when the Rams bypassed Mekhi Lemon, that sprung him loose at that point in time to fall later in the draft at 20. If the Rams had gone ahead and sought receiving help, the pick very well might have been Mekhi Lemon. But they opted to go with Ty Simpson, which meant that Mekhi Lemon slid down the draft board to a spot where eventually the Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles, hated rivals, wind up making a trade pick swap that enables Philadelphia to go up to get Mekhi Lemon, Dallas to go back, get extra picks, and get Malachi Lawrence. And these two teams who hadn't made a trade since the trade that enabled Dallas to get Micah Parsons and Philadelphia Devontae Smith made another trade that resulted in Philly getting another wide receiver and Dallas getting another pass rusher.
It's just a wild, wild thing to think about how it all went down. But again, huge pickup for the Eagles thanks to Adam Field. How does Mekhi Lemon fit on this Eagles offense?
Yeah, Laura, the Biletnikoff winner from last season, one of his superpowers was his run after catch strength. And it's not necessarily because he's the fastest guy. He's probably a low 4.5s player. It's a combination of vision, toughness, and contact strength. Now, you can argue that a lot of this was due to the offensive structure that Philadelphia ran last year under that much maligned system. But they were second to last in terms of yards after the catch in 2025. They need to find ways, Mina, to give their wide receivers opportunities to be more dynamic. What Mekhi Lemon lacks in stature, he's a smaller guy, maybe even a slower wide receiver by first-round comparisons. He does make up for that tenacity you see with the football in his hands.
The Eagles taking Mekhi Lemon tells me a couple things about how they look at their current group of receivers. One, A.J. Brown is likely gone, and this is also coupled with some of the additions they made in free agency. But I think it also says something about Devontae Smith, which is that they think he can be the number one in this offense, which sounds crazy because we're talking about they took a receiver in the first round. But I see Lemon's role being a lot of what you talked about. He's going to be primarily in the slot. I could see him getting touches out of the backfield. Think about like Jaden Reed, Sean Mannion's coming from Green Bay. Devontae, I think, is going to play primarily outside. They believe, and I'm in agreement with this, I think Devontae Smith is incredibly underrated. He can be a 3-level threat for them. He can be their explosive playmaker. He can get some of those A.J. Brown targets because he has proven that his size has not been a deterrent in the NFL.
And since we're here at the draft, let's go back to Devontae Smith being drafted 10th overall after a historic year in Alabama. And so Devontae has shown you, go back to Minnesota last season, that explosive week with him being able to get the football down the field. So you could see more of that from him. And then the rest of this group feels like what Green Bay sort of did with their group. You add Dontavian Wicks, who in my opinion was underutilized in Green Bay, and Mekhi Lemon, a guy I got to see play in person, the tenacity, the effort. And when he gets the football in his hands, he turns into a running back. And so if they can find more creative ways to give guys run after the catch, Mekhi Lemon can benefit from that. But I believe one-on-ones with Devontae Smith as the primary receiver, there is very few better route runners in all of the NFL.
I like that over y'all's heads it says greatness is on the clock, because that's a lot of greatness right there. You guys are awesome.
Take it.
More coming your way here on NFL Live. And when we come back, the Jets made 3 picks on night 1 of the draft, including 2 pass catchers on offense. Swagoo tells us why he loves the Hall in New York. That's next. You're watching NFL Live.